Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jumper, and today I'll be doing my top 5 favourite final boss fights. Now, within a bunch of video games you will obviously come across a particular villain, and on occasion you might have to fight them a couple of times. For instance, if you look at the Mario games, pretty much a bunch of those boss fights have you fighting Bowser a couple of times before fighting him towards the very end of the game. And sometimes you might not fight them until the very end of the game, where you might have fought a bunch of other villains and then fighting the final boss after you've beaten like the final area of the game. And for this list, I'm beginning with some of the boss fights that I feel like are really fun and entertaining and are a sort of interesting part of the story as well. So yeah, to start off with, for number 5 is Dr. Octopus from this PS4 Spider-Man game. Now, what I really like about this boss fight is that you see the development of Dr. Octopus throughout the course of the game. So at the very start, you see him as this sort of inventor who's trying to create those prosthetic limbs for people, so like prosthetic arms and stuff like that. And then throughout the course of the game, you see him kind of like start to think more about how he could help, how he can use the prosthetics to help people. And then I think about halfway or so through the game, you see him, have him already built the arms, and then he becomes evil. And I think the transition from good guy to villain is really interesting, and I think it's and when it comes to the final fight, it's really personal, I think, both to you and to Peter Parker, because you've got to experience some sort of friendship with this person, and having to fight him kind of tears you like into different directions, because on the one hand you have to stop him because you have to save everyone, everyone who's been caught in the Devil's Breath pandemic, as well as you don't want to fight him because he's meaning so much to you as a friend, as a advisor, and that kind of thing. And I think his final fight is really fun to have, just like on top of Osborn Tower or Oscorp Tower, and it's just a really fun. It's really interesting, and I do like how in this fight, Spider-Man makes his own suit to fight Dr. Octopus, because the material that his new suit, or his final suit that he creates, is made of the same material as the arms that Dr. Octopus have. And I think that's a really interesting way of us seeing Peter's ingenuity and having him to adapt to fighting Dr. Octopus. And I like the fact that he releases the Sinister Six in the game. For number 4 is Boulder from God of War 2018, and what I like about this fight is that you get to fight him like a couple of times throughout the game, with him being one of the first boss fights in the game. And to him, he's known as a stranger at the start of the game, and then later on you learn more and more about him. So you learn that he can't die. He learns that he's the brother of Thor, that he's the son of Freya, and that he's looking for a way to reach Jotunheim and stuff like that. And I do like how if you play God of War 2018, after once or twice more after you've played the original, after you've played your first playthrough, I do like how the context of what Boulder's saying changes, because in the first, if you play the God of War 2018 for the first time, it's more of a mystery of what's actually going on, because Boulder says, I thought you would be larger, and in the second or third playthrough of God of War, when he says that line, you know that he's looking for a giant, that being Faye, Kratos' wife, and yeah, and anyway he's looking for a giant is so that he can reach Jotunheim. And I think that's a really cool, interesting way of kind of foreshadowing, as well as re-experience that moment again. And I do like how in his final fight he can use both fire and ice attacks, and they both complement both the Blaze of Chaos and the Leviathan axe really well. I do enjoy both of those attacks, and I do like how his sort of or his death at the end, and at the end of his final fight brings Ragnarok, and I think that's what makes me very excited for the upcoming game, because of the events that happened during God of War 2018 is what's going to happen which leads up to the events of Ragnarok. For number 3 is Cynthia from the original Diamond, Pearl and Platinum games, and I'm not going to include the remake because I feel like the remake of Cynthia's fight was a lot easier in my opinion. So for the original Cynthia fight, when you fight her at the Pokemon League, she has a really cool and variety of Pokemon. So she has Lucario, Gastrodon, Togekiss, her ace Garchomp, and several other Pokemon. And I do like how if you're playing in Diamond Pearl, I think she has one of her members is like a Gastrodon, and I think she changes it to a Togekiss, and I think that's a really interesting way of like, just even though it's like the same team, she can have different Pokemon, and I think that's like one of the few times a champion has changed their team a bit in terms of making it tough. And I do like how in Gen 4 her team can just one sweep you, depending on which kind of Pokemon you use. And I do like how, from my personal experience of playing Diamond and Pearl, whenever she brings out her Garchomp, she just sweeps me, and I think she's a really good challenge, and I think she's probably one of the best champions in the whole of the Pokemon series, because I feel like some of the champions I have faced, like, you know, Steven Stone and Oras, Diantha and X and Y, I feel like those have some of their challenges, but I feel like they are quite easy to deal with. But with Cynthia, she is a very interesting and very fun and very difficult kind of champion. I think she has the right amount of challenge. It would, if you did play the original Diamond and Pearl and Platinum, you would know that it would take a few tries and probably some leveling up with your Pokemon team, and then you could have a chance of fighting off Cynthia. But I do think she's a really cool and interesting champion. So for number 2 is the final Bowser fight from the first Super Mario Galaxy game. And what I really like about this fight is that throughout the fight you're on 3 different planets. The first one being the sort of purpley type of planet. The second one being sort of a planet filled with these balloon squishy things that you probably have seen throughout the course of the game up until that point. And then the final planet being this sort of glass lava planet thing that you might have seen in the previous 2 fights. And what I like about this fight is that it kind of causes you to adapt to each planet that you're on. With the first one being Bowser, whenever Bowser tries and goes in for attack, he basically goes into this giant rock thing with his face sticking out. And this first phase is not the best part of the fight. I would say that the other 2 phases are 100% better, because I feel like, because I think it's mainly because Bowser isn't in that giant rock thing, and I feel like it's kind of dumb, I would say, for a first phase. But the other 2 phases just kind of make up for that, because it's really cool to see Bowser doing a lot of cooler stuff. But yeah, and I would say Bowser, I think each fight gets, or each phase of the fight gets more intense and intense and intense. And out of all the Bowser fights in all of the Mario games, I would say that the final Bowser fight, as well as the other 2 times you face against Bowser, is probably the one in Galaxy 1. It's probably my favourite one out of all the times you fight Bowser. I think it's just because you're in space, and it's just really cool, just like just seeing you move from planet to planet and stuff like that. And I do like how with the final planet, you're in this giant the planet that you fight on, the final one, is in this giant lava thing. This like giant lava flow kind of thing, kind of like loop-de-swoop galaxy, something like that. And yeah, I think that's a really very fun way of doing a Bowser fight. And for number 1 is Demise from The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Now, what I like about Demise's final fight, or the final fight in that game with Demise, is that you're told about him about towards the end of the game, when you have to try and find the Triforce, and even though it is, you know, quite late into the game about how about the amount of information you have to given about Demise, I do like how throughout the whole game you're given hints about him. So mainly from Give-A-Him, where he's talking about how he needs to use Zelda to revive Demise, because Zelda in that game is the reincarnation of the goddess Hylia, and then you're kind of given a bit more information about him from the old version of Impa, at the future version of the sealed temple, and then once you find Zelda, you're given a lot more information about him. And I do like how when he's properly introduced at the end of the game, he kind of draws a sword from Give-A-Him's crystal thing, and on the middle of his chest. And I do like, and also the fight itself, I do like how in the first phase, it's your standard sort of sword fight. I like how Demise can predict your attacks, and you have to like try and if Demise's sword is like here, let's say, like diagonal, then you have to use the opposite diagonal way of fighting him, and then if it's the other way, then you have to hit the other way. And I do like how in the second phase, the whole area, it gets filled with lightning, and I do like how both sides use their swords to conduct the lightning and try and hit each other with them. I feel like that's a really cool way of fighting, and I do hope if this sort of concept is brought back into Breath of the Wild 2 with Ganondorf's fight. I hope that if we get to fight Ganondorf in a sword fight, he can like summon lightning or something, and we can both use the lightning to our advantage to try and hit our opponents. And I think, yeah, that's really cool. I do like how, I also like how I do like how in the once you defeat Ganondorf, or no, not Ganondorf, Demise, he says that his hatred will always pursue both Link and Zelda's descendants, and I think that's a really cool way of introducing Ganondorf and stuff like that. So that's been my top 5 favourite final boss fights. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.